What's up, everybody? Is my microphone working? It is. I couldn't see it. My levels. How's everybody doing today? Today kicks off our back to school sale. We wanted to start this last weekend, but it took a lot more prep than we expected. So basically the sale is going to run through Saturday. It'll end at Saturday at midnight our time. We're on Central Time. Did you get... Can you guys see the box that's on my screen? Like, I don't know if this is... Tony, what are you doing here? That has to be OBS. They just released an update. What the hell? It's not doing it anymore. Okay, if it does again, that's going to be weird. I've never had the camera do it, and I haven't changed any settings. If I take the hat off, will it start tracking my face? Had to be the camera. I'm assuming. Anyways, that was weird. Yeah, so we made a post. There's a bunch of stuff on sale right now. You can go head over to the TH3D store at th3dstore.com. Yeah, we got some awesome deals, and basically every day there's going to be a bundle that's discounted lower than our normal price, even including the sale prices. So today we have our maintenance bundle for like 33 bucks. For 33 bucks you can get yourself a bunch of nozzles, some vision miner, a nozzle maintenance kit that's got the little needles and tweezers to clean your nozzle out, some extra socks, a tough tube, and a bunch of V-slot wheels. So stuff that you can use to help your print stick, and also things that wear out on your printer. So we will not be releasing all the deals on the bundles that we have coming, but there will be deals every single day on bundles along with the sale prices on everything else. So if you guys want to see what's on sale, you can go to our store. We also have a list of what's on sale. If you click news at the top and click the back to school sale link, it will give you a list of everything that's on sale. One of the things I did discount quite a bit, because we only have a few of them left and I want them off the shelves, are these hats. So these are 50% off right now. What does that come to? What are those right now? These are $12.50. We're actually selling these below cost, just to get them out of here. And that's it. We're not ordering anymore. We did one run of them. There were 100 made. So if you guys want a snazzy hat, now's the time to get it. And those are not drop shipped. Those are shipped right from here. We physically have those in our shop. So, one of the things I want to talk about, something I've been talking with Scott over at Marlin, is these clone chips, and we saw them first pop up with the Voxelab Aquila, where we opened it up, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, that's not an STM, but the part number is basically the same as STM's part number, just instead of STM at the front of it. So an STM part number, for example, would be STM32F103. The part number on the Voxelab was like GD32F103. So these are chips that are made by a company called Giga Device. There's a bunch of other companies out there, but if you just, do a quick search, you'll see a lot of threads, like on the EEV blog and other companies, like I think Olimex was one of them, discussing the, these clone chips, because they are, they're basically advertise themselves as a drop-in replacement for an STM32 processor. And the legality part, especially with a company like us that puts out firmware for these boards, and right now, the two companies I know that are using these STM32 clones, alternatives, whatever the hell you want to call them, not genuine STM32 chips, are Voxelab on their Aquila boards and Big Tree Tech on their SKR E3 Mini, and I believe it's only the version 2. I don't know if they're making the older versions anymore, but I've seen quite a few pictures from different people where they've gotten those GD chips on their SKR E3 Mini version 2s. And the problem right now is that while these are, pin compatible, I'll actually show you because I'm, just looking into them to see what they are. The GD chips are actually rated by the company to run at a faster, I forgot to close all my chat stuff. Let's go ahead and just oh my God. Let's just exit all my chat things. So the GD chips are actually rated to run at a higher speed. The problem it looks like that people are running into with the firmware is because like the clocks are different speeds and go away Coinbase. Let's turn those off. Because the clocks are at a different speed, it's causing issues with the USB being unstable, and especially unstable when you're using like the USB to mount the SD card that's in the slot over USB so you can transfer files to it from your computer. On the left side here, I actually have STM's datasheet. On the right, I have Giga, I forgot the name, GD, Giga device. I was going to say Giga Data. So these are the two packages. They use LQFP64 for on the Big Tree Tech boards and the VoxLab. And you can see the pin mappings are identical. They're absolutely identical. Not one of these are marked different. But the weird thing is how their actual block diagram is with these chips, because they're not identical. And the problem is because of the speed differences that these chips run at and just the way they're logically designed. So it doesn't look like, I haven't decapped one. I did find, I'll show you guys some pictures where someone decapped them. They're not, it doesn't look like they're copying the physical design of the silicon, but they're basically making something that's, let's use the term that they like, instead of calling it clone, it's compatible. But I don't know. I don't feel comfortable using compatible chips. Yeah. The giveaway form is shut off for right now. I have to reset all that up. So, but anyways, so these are the block diagrams for the STM chip and for the Giga device chip. And you can see they're quite different. The layout's different. The timers are actually on different buses here. So you got your AHB to APB bridges here, your 1 and 2, and same thing on here. Like the timers are on completely different buses here, and they're also running at different frequencies. So you can see, well, you might not be able to see, but on the STM, you see here the frequency max is 48 or 72, and then we got 24/36 on the bus 1, bus 2, whereas this one, it actually has a max of 108 and 54. So the problem is when you're running stuff like USB, which I believe needs, what is it? I had it up here. What's the frequency USB runs at? I think it's 48 megahertz. Yeah, so the problem is when you got to divide those clocks to get to like the 48 megahertz, so the USB could be unstable because of the frequencies that the Giga device is operating at versus the STM device. So like people are saying with these Giga device chips, with Marlin as it stands right now, where USB is dropping off after an hour or two of printing, that can be very frustrating, which is why we posted something. We didn't post stuff out here to talk shit about Big Tree Tech. I posted out here because people are telling us that they're having issues with their firmware, and people on GitHub are saying they're having issues with the firmware with these boards, with these chips. So it needs to be known so people aren't going, well, what the hell is going on? It's because of the differences with these processors. While the Giga device is, compatible, it's not running the code correctly that's intended for the STM32 devices. So the other problem is, and I have this on our website here, I also found a site, I believe it was in the Netherlands, where the guy actually was comparing stuff, and for the most part, most things worked. It's like 99% of the way there. So, but anyways, this is the post we made on our site. They're clearly doing it because the silicon shortage. It sucks. Everybody's dealing with this. We're dealing with this. The thing with the Giga device that really left a bad taste in my mouth is like they're not even coming up with their own part numbers. You can see here, I specifically say here, you know, GD32F103 RET6, and STM has the same exact part number. It's just STM instead of GD. So, and what kicked this off was Scott and I were talking about this. He asked me if I had seen these chips in the wild. And I told him, yes, I actually have one on a Voxelab. And they're discussing issues with the USB bus not being stable, trying to run it faster because there is a rated frequency here. And then they're talking about the multipliers here because it's I think it's got an 8 megahertz oscillator. So you have to divide by the oscillator to get to certain frequencies. So, but just basically general instability. Now, the problem is, which I was bringing this up, is this right here. So Marlin uses the ST libraries to compile firmware for those chips. And the problem is right here, number 4 in the license that's attached to the software that Marlin is using, the libraries, the software libraries, where it specifically says that this software package or any part thereof, including modifications and or derivative works of this software package, must be used and executed solely and exclusively on or in combination with a microcontroller or a microprocessor devices manufactured by or for ST Microelectronics. So that means that if you use this software, these libraries, so if we're compiling Marlin with these libraries, this is in violation of this. And now you as a home user, they're probably not going to do anything. You're not worth it trying to go after them. The problem is we put out software for these SKRE3 boards, the version 2. And the software is not running 100% correctly on these chips because they're not ST chips. This other thing here, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. If we put out something that says, hey, you know, let's say we found a workaround or someone else found a workaround to make the software, you know, Marlin software stable on these chips, and we specifically have a GD target version of the firmware for those boards, is ST going to come after us because we are a company and we're facilitating that use? That's what I don't know. So it puts us in a position where I'm afraid to do anything because I don't want to get sued. You know, me personally, I don't like the idea of using these compatible chips, regardless if the STM chips are hard to get because of all the silicon crap going on. I don't like using, like, this is the heart of your board. I don't like using these generic compatible chips for the main part that controls the printer, because who knows if the code's going to run fine 99% of the time. If it hits that 1% and you're not watching the printer, what's going to happen? Is it just going to stop working and nothing's going to happen? Or are the pins going to go high and it's going to turn your MOSFETs on and now you have a thermal runaway condition that the software can't control because it's hard locked? You know, this is not the first time Big Tree Tech has had controversy over their firmware and processors, because when they first launched the E3 series, they had a mix of the RET CPU part numbers going out from STM and the RCT. The RET has 512K of flash. The RCT only has 256K. The problem is they were sending out firmware, and you can go check their GitHub history. You don't have to take my word for it. They were having people flash a 512K firmware build onto 256K chips. And there were people defending that, saying, oh, it's fine, except Scott from Marlin came in and said, no, don't do that. People's printers are locking up and the heaters are staying on. It's actually dangerous, you know, but I got flack for that. I don't care at this point. If I see something that's kind of sketchy, I'm going to say it. You know, the Big Tree Tech fanboys are already going out there saying the only reason Tim said something about this is because he wants people to buy their boards. We don't even have our boards. I have no idea when we're actually going to have our boards, and I don't care if you buy our board or not. I genuinely don't. What I do care about is getting emails saying that your firmware is broken because people are using these on these boards with these clone chips on them, and it's not that the firmware is broken, it's that the board is using a crappy copy of an ST chip and it doesn't work the same. Those are the facts of the matter. You can't argue with it. Those are the actual facts. You know, regardless if I think the clone chips are something that I wouldn't touch, that I'd be wary using, that's irrelevant. The fact of the matter right now is the software for Marlin that's intended for the STM32 chips is not working correctly all the time like it is on the STMs on these GD chips. And that's the reality of the situation. You can try to attack me personally. You can say I'm a liar. You can say I'm trying to just sell boards. It doesn't change the facts of the situation. You can go cry on Facebook. I don't care. So anyways, yeah. So, I mean, again, coming back to it, I want to put out firmware for these boards because it's not the consumer's fault that they were sold boards with knockoff chips. I don't think there'd be an issue morally if they said, hey, you could be shipped an STM32 or you could be shipped a GD, or if the, just have it in the product description. Now, I have heard reports that some people got these for beta testing. But I also had a couple of people email me already saying that they checked their chip after seeing the post and they've been having weird issues with the board and they have the clone chip. So, did some accidentally get out there? I mean, I don't know. I would never send you guys out boards with these GD chips on it. If we can't get boards with STM chips, we're just not going to sell boards. I don't feel comfortable, just from let's just say from a liability standpoint, I don't feel comfortable sending out boards with these chips from this company that's making these compatible processors. That's just me. I don't want to deal with them. I wouldn't use them in my main machines. So I'm not going to sell them to you. And just in case Creality starts switching over to these, we are checking, because the only two boards we have in stock right now in our shop are the MKS boards, the SGNL V2s, and we have the Creality 427 boards. And the Creality 427 boards use an STM32 F103 series chip. So if they are going to switch them out because they can't get those chips anymore, we're literally opening up every single one to make sure that they have an actual ST chip on there and it's not a GD part. So, yeah. Anyways, Big Tree Tech fanboys can go cry if they want. They're using these, and I don't know. It just feels dirty. They're like, well, we don't want to pay for ST chips because they're expensive right now, so we're just going to send them with clones. Call it whatever you want, a clone, a copy, a compatible. It's not an ST chip, but it's trying to be. Yeah, so one of the things here is, we're just going to touch on this a little bit. Let me move this back over. I do have this. This is smdpruster.nl, where he's talking about he can't do a proper USB clock divider with the F103. Oh, I just realized this. This is actually the same series chip that Big Tree Tech is using. This is the F103. They come in different pin packages. This is a smaller package. So he's testing UART, and he said UART works correctly. The only thing here, and this is where it's going to cause weirdness with Marlin and timings and things operating correctly, is he's just doing a simple test here, and he's got it hooked up to an oscilloscope so we can see how it's responding, of sending the same command to blink an LED into the GD chip and to the ST chip. Now, if you remember, the GD chip is rated to run faster than the ST chip, but people are using those GD chips in place of the ST chips, and the problem is because they're running faster, this is just a capture of the GD on the top here being told to blink an LED at the same rate as ST, and you can see how much faster the GD is going. So is this going to cause problems with Marlin operating because the pulses are not timed correctly versus on the ST? Like, this is all the stuff you have to take in consideration when you're switching these processors, because you could get really weird results and things not working correctly. So, yeah, I found this article and I just realized it's the same family of chips. It's the F103 versus the STM. So, yeah, you can look this up, smdprutser.nl. And he has quite a few pictures on here. He had, is this the main page? I think he had a link. Here you can see. Also, they have the flash is not part of the main die. I can't remember if ST's is part of the main die or not, but you can see it's two different dies and they have bonding wires going to them. But they actually decapped it and have really, really high detailed pictures of the actual silicon here. And you can see this is actually GD, or whoever's making these designs for GD. Their original designs, they're just trying to, I guess, is reverse engineer the right way, but make pin compatible replacement for these STs. So if you guys want to check that out, you can go to that smdpruster.nl, and he's just got a couple of different things on here. So, you know, but the timing stuff is concerning, just because how is Marlin going to account for that? We're almost going to need a separate environment for these boards to account for the differences in how these chips operate. So, you know, and I don't know if you guys watch Maker's Muse. He did a video on, you know, I think it was the 7 sins of 3D printer companies. And one of them, and I'm so glad he called it out, was testing on the user, which is what it seems Big Tree Tech is doing with these. Well, let's just send these boards out and let the Marlin team figure it out. Let the community figure it out. We're not going to actually put money into paying people to figure out how to get these working. You know, it's frustrating. So I don't even know if we should talk to a lawyer, you know, or, you know, about the legality of the ST libraries. Like, am I putting ourselves at risk? Am I putting our company at risk if we put out like, hey, you got the Big Tree Tech E3 V2, use this firmware for the GD chip, use this one for the, you know, the STM chip? Like, is that something we have to worry ourselves about? Because I don't want to get sued because I'm just trying to put out free firmware for people to use. Because, you know, the majority of people that use our firmware, they're not customers of ours. You know, I'm just trying to do code because I enjoy doing it. Like 80% of the time I enjoy doing the code. Other time it's just like, yeah, anyways, but if you just look up, there's discussions about Giga Device. Just Google Giga GD32 versus the STM32. There was a, what was it? Hacker something.io. What was it? It was one of those Hackaday. STM32s, they have one called STM32s, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, and they talk about Giga Devices, and another one called CKS, which is also a Chinese company making compatible CPUs. So, anyways, yeah. My main thing is getting emails saying that our firmware is broken when it's just the board that they're using doesn't have the correct processor on it that it was intended for, you know. And most people are not going to look at their processors on the boards. I do because, you know, that's my thing, and I'm anal about it. But let's get into the chat here. That was quite a long rant here. I have so many tabs open from doing research on the GD stuff over the last couple days. All right, where is my live chat window? Here it is. Pop out chat. I need to appoint somebody to go through and pull questions out. That would make it way more easy. So, all right. Sean Hawkins, anyone know I would get an error on an M48 command? Usually, in general, I don't know what probe you're using. M48 is a probe test. It will put your probe in a certain position on the bed, take readings, and average those out to tell you how good or bad your probe is reading. But if your M48 is, you know, getting an error or it says probing failed, it could be either start with the simplest stuff, could be a bad connection between your sensor and the control board. If you're using something that requires calibration like our EasyABL, you could have it not calibrated correctly. So it's reading all over the place. If you set it too high or too low, or don't calibrate at all, because they do not come pre-calibrated. They have to be calibrated for your specific printer you put them on. Then it could error out. There's a threshold. I can't remember what the margin is, but it's a couple millimeters, where if it detects that one probe was so many millimeters out from the last one, it's just going to error out because something's not wrong, or something's wrong and not working correctly. So instead of it crashing, it's just going to be like, something's wrong. We're going to stop the test. So, man, if only people that ran Chernobyl thought that way. Let's see. Matt Madib, people on the BTT Facebook group acting like they didn't try to switch these knockoff CPUs on people without disclosing the change. Yeah, it seems like they're backpedaling since we said something. People have been saying, I looked and there's been chatter on GitHub about it. And it's like, oh, they said something. Well, let's just tell them it's a beta. like, you know, or we accidentally sent them out. I have no idea. I don't know what they're thinking over there. And the other thing too is this is the last time I'm going to touch on this. Why are you using the same model number? Call it something else. Like, change the silk screen on the board so people know what they're buying. Anyways, let's see. You know, I was expecting there to be more. That was quite the long rant, unless you guys were just so captivated about me going over my concerns that no one asked questions. So, let's see. 3.5 mils. He starts with a rant, then goes to questions. Sometimes the rants go on for a little bit. Yeah, I'm not seeing. Anyways, Yeah, if you guys asked before the stream started, I don't always see those. So once we start the queue up, when we actually start, then they're there. I will check. Where's Discord? I don't see any questions in Discord. So, but I like to answer the questions from chat and use Discord basically as a, hey, I need to send you a picture or a link because YouTube doesn't allow us to send that stuff on there. So, I see other people chattering about the CPUs, so I lied. We will talk about it towards the end of the stream because there are concerns on Marlon's side after talking with Scott. Look at that monster on the futon. Yeah, that's Clara. Come on. You got, Sean said, I got a probe out of bounds. Means ABL. It's calibrated perfectly with a 2-inch gauge block. So the 2-inch gauge is for mounting the sensor. You still have to calibrate it, but a probe out of bounds usually means that you're telling it to probe out of where the probe can reach. So the core things you need to have for an ABL sensor in the firmware is you need to have the sensor offsets, which tells the firmware where the probe is physically located in relation to the tip of the nozzle, so it can take that into account when it takes the reading. So, you know, like, for example, like the Anycubic here sitting to my left that I've been working on, that has a probe offset of 40 because the probe is to the right 40 millimeters. So it's offset on X of 40 and 0 on Y. Now, some probe mounts will have offsets on X and Y, and it can be positive or it can be negative. If it's to the right of the nozzle on X, it's a positive number. If it's to the left of the nozzle on X, it's a negative number. And I can never remember the front to back, whether it's positive or negative, but basically it's either positive or negative if it's in the front or the opposite on the rear. So anyways, yeah, so you need to have your offsets entered in. Make sure you're clearing your EEPROM because offsets with Marlin 2 can linger in the EEPROM. So they do have settings in EEPROM now for the probe offsets. We still recommend you putting them in the firmware because if you do an M500 or M502 to reset it, it wipes all those offsets out, versus if you have it in the firmware and you do M502, the offsets go back to what you set them to in the firmware. So, but that's basically it. If you're getting probe out of bounds, it means you're telling the printer to probe in a location that it thinks the probe physically can't reach. So if it is in a physical location where it can reach, then that means that the firmware is not set up correctly because the printer's going, I can't probe there, and it's throwing it out of bounds error. So it just is going to be a firmware setting then. So, and then on top of that, once the firmware's set up and your probe's calibrated, you set your Z offset. There's a video on the channel. There's also a link in our help center. If you just search Z offset or Z offset TH3D, that'll come up. And where was I going with this? Oh, so your probe offset, and then you need to update your slicer. So you have the G28 followed by G29. The G28 is your standard home XYZ. And typically your Z will home with the probe, not your end stop. And then the G29 will then use the probe to take readings of the bed to generate the mesh that it will use to compensate. Now, the thing is, if you use G28 after a G29, most of the time, depending on how your firmware set up, it will then disable bed leveling. So make sure you have G29 after your G28, because after G29 is done running and it has that mesh data, it then turns bed leveling on and will do the compensation. So you can do it really easily by testing, by manually running a G28, then manually run a G29, and then tell your print head to move from left to right, and you should see it making adjustments on the Z, and do front to back as well. So spot on this. How's the Coax Pet G coming? Now, the print quality on this is because the Chiron is not dialed in, but this did print. This is not post-processed. This is their Pet G. There was no stringing between the little earlobes here. The Chiron is not, it's an okay print. I would not call this excellent. But this is Coax's Stealth Gray Pet G, and I think it's good. It's printing really nice. I don't know if I have the, oh, I do. This was a very quick print on my Ender 6. This is not going for quality. This was a prototype for the Chiron mount. This is actually the Coax Next. This is the recycled PLA. I'm going to start using this until I'm going to start using this and the other random filaments I need to get rid of to print prototype parts. So their Coax Next seems to print just like the regular PLA. The only thing with the Coax Next is you don't have a guarantee on color because the color changes based on batch, because what they're doing with the Coax Next is when they start up lines, there's a bunch of waste generated until it starts extruding at the correct diameter. So they're taking that, regrinding it, and then re-extruding it. So how quick did that print? I think I had the slicer set at 80. This thing was moving. My whole table was shaking. But let's see. Ram Design is asking, can the magnetic bases be cut to fit? Yes, they can. You can cut the magnetic bases. You cannot cut the plate. You can sometimes go, within reason, a slightly larger plate than your bed. The max I would recommend going bigger than your bed. Like if you're trying to find a plate and the exact size of your bed isn't available, don't go more than like 10, 15 millimeters tops in any direction. And then when you put the plate on the bed, center it so it overhangs the same distance around all of them. For example, my Alphawise U10 has a 400 by 400 bed, but I'm using our 410 by 410 flex plate on there, and I just center it. So basically I've got 5 millimeters hanging off on the front and back. The problem is if you have, let's say you're going 20 millimeters bigger in any direction, you're going to have a lot of plate hanging off, and it's not going to get heated evenly. So it's going to start going like this and bowing up because the metal is not being heated evenly. So anyways, I had popcorn for lunch, and it's stuck in my teeth. I love popcorn, but I hate the kernels. Hey, Clara. I love you. I see people complaining that I missed questions. Hang on. I'm scrolling up. Someone want to volunteer to just copy the questions from chat and paste them into the live stream Discord, and like that would help a lot. I need a live stream jockey, or I don't even know if that's right. I need a minion. I need a live stream minion. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Chat jumped. All right, hang on. Where are we at? Okay, there's a lot. Okay, I was at Bardicus's question. He said, I put an older SKR turbo from 1.5 years ago, Ender 5 Plus, which is also upgraded with meanwhile PSU. Now when I heat just the bed, I can pull 585 watts from the wall. Where did I goof? That doesn't sound wrong for that printer. That printer pulls a lot of power. Hang on. I need to double check because my Ender 5 Plus, I don't know if the outlet it's on is on a Wi-Fi outlet with power monitoring. It's on a Wi-Fi outlet, but I don't know if it's got the power monitoring. Let me see here. Gotta log in. Let's see. Main menu. Count. There it is. Okay, yeah, I do. So easy plug. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and share this. Let's see how much my Ender 5 Plus pulls, because this has got our easy board in it with a mean well. You can tell I haven't used this printer in a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on, and the power monitor should start updating. There we go. And I'm gonna tell the bed to heat. 585 watts doesn't seem out of sorts for that printer. Just waiting for it. It should connect. There it goes. And I'm just gonna do like full send. So we're gonna home the motors. So the motors are on. Let's see where we're at. So we're at like 30 something watts right now. Okay. Let that finish homing. Hopefully there's nothing on my nozzle. Nope, good. All right, so let's heat the nozzle. What do we jump up to? Okay, we're pulling like 64. Make that bigger. Pulling like 64 right now. And let's heat the bed. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, 580 doesn't seem out of sorts. I was gonna say I thought that printer pulled quite a bit, so we're pulling 7 amps out of the wall there. So, yep, that does not seem bad. I'm gonna go ahead and just tell that to stop heating because I don't want to waste power. I'm not going to run a print on there. So, I'm a heathen because I don't have dark mode. Sorry, I just blasted your eyes. Yeah, this has the 450 meanwhile as well. So, let's see. Nemo, I don't see your question. Post it again. Key Deal is asking, I'm trying to compile my firmware, but I can't get VS Code to work. I have followed your video multiple times, and I can't get the blue check mark in the bottom corner to compile it. Look up VS Code for Noobs. Search TH3D VS Code for Noobs. There's a video that goes over all the little things that new people mess up when they're opening the firmware or setting up VS Code. So at the very least, you need to have VS Code installed with Python 3 on your computer and Platform IO as well. Those are the 3 things you need to have loaded on there, and then you also need to open the correct folder. So that video is specifically for people that ask the same exact question because it comes up a million times. It's usually because you're not opening the correct folder. If you don't open the correct folder, then it doesn't work. So shout out to Vince. Vince said, Nemo Griff, hey Tim, does PEI work better than build tech on a non-heated bed? I do not, no, it does not. So we have our own build tech brand. We have our Easy Mat, which is the same kind of thing. Definitely if you're not using a heated bed, use something like the Easy Mat or build tech because it's going to hold down a lot better. Those type of sheets, those are like polycarbonate based sheets. That's the type of plastic it is. Those typically work way better than PEI with a heated bed. If you have a heated bed, the purpose of the heated bed is to prevent the part from warping. If you don't have a heated bed, you want something that's a little bit stronger to hold the print down. Now, another thing is if you do have PEI surface, something like the Vision Miner would be a good combination with that and should do well even on a non-heated bed. I've got away with a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have been able to with Vision Miner or with like the Easy Mat. So, for example, my Wanhao i3 Mini, before I put a heated bed on it, I had an Easy Mat on there. Did not have the Flex because it did not have a heated bed. So, God damn kernel stuck in my tooth. Yeah, Sean is still going on about the ABL. He said, first I did M48 Pro five times and gave me an error. Well, I need to know what the error is. The first thing to do to check to make sure everything's talking correctly is run the M119 command, which is the end stop test. So if you... I can show you. Because I have a printer right here. Is it going to turn on? Okay, I was like, did my Chiron die? I'm like right in the middle of doing stuff with it. Let me show you the magic of the M119 command. Main monitor. So, the first thing I do, if I'm having issues with an ABL probe not working, I will connect to the printer. So you can see here, I'm connected. I got the welcome. Do an M502. Okay, that will reset it back to default. You'll see hard-coded default settings loaded. I'm sorry if you can't see that. Oh, I can make it bigger. I didn't know that. I can make the window bigger. So that'll be easier for you guys. Then M500. So I've just reset the EEPROM and then stored the reset EEPROM settings to the EEPROM. How many times can I say EEPROM? So now the M119 command, okay? So I'm connected to the Chiron. You can see here, I have Filament in the printer, so you can see the filament sensor showing triggered, and it should because I have Filament in there. For example, if I push the bed back and hold it against the end stop, you can see here, see the Y is showing triggered. If I do the same with the X, you can see the X is showing triggered. Now, if I put my finger underneath the EasyABL and hit enter, you can see Z probe is showing triggered. Now, on your printer, you're going to be looking at Z min. Now, this Chiron's a different animal because it has a dual Z end stop set up, and I'm playing with trying to utilize the Z end stops for bed leveling, or not bed leveling, but gantry leveling, along with the sensor. But you're going to want to look at the Z min 9 times out of 10. And if you have your finger underneath the sensor and the light's on the sensor and the light is on in the control board, you should show triggered. If you don't show triggered, there's a little switch on the inside of the EasyABL control board. If I flip it, you can see here it's not showing triggered. So I flipped it. I'm touching the probe. It's not showing triggered. I flipped the little switch back on the control box, and now it's reading the signal correctly. So if the probe is communicating with the control board, the red light on the probe and the red light in the EasyABL control box will light up. That means that the sensor's talking back to the control box. So then the point of failure then would be between the control box and your printer. So this is a very quick way to test, and you can test all your end stops with it just like I did here. So I know my Y is working, you know, it's touching the end stop, it's not touching the end stop. Same thing with the X. You know, I'm pressing it. Where is it? There it is. I'm pressing the X. I'm not pressing the X. Pressing, not pressing. It's a really useful command because it gives you an instant report of, is this working or not? You know, am I getting communication between, you know, the probe or my end stops or my filament sensor back to the control board? So keep in mind, if you guys are having issues with, you know, a probe not reading correctly, or, you know, you go to home and your end stop your carriage just rams into the end of the gantry, it's probably because the end stop's not reading correctly. So all right, hopefully that helps get you in the right direction. But remember to set the EEPROM. EEPROM is a big thing that gets people. Superconductors asking, will there be a board and probe bundle? Okay, so since Vince is doing the he's putting the questions in chat, I'm just going to do this. This is great. I'm just going to react to these that I've already answered, and this, I like this. Vince, you are now my appointed question lackey for this stream. I appreciate your service. All right, so the next one would be Sean Haskins. He said the first, okay, we were just talking about that. EasyABL and board bundle. There will not be an EasyABL and board bundle. There will just be discounts. Or there are discounts right now on the EasyABL. The EasyABL, it's either 10 or 15% off. I did them earlier and I already forgot. Joe is asking, what's the easiest way to disable Wi-Fi on a Pi so Octoprint only uses hardline? That's an excellent question. You don't necessarily have to disable it, but what you can do is just don't set an SSID in the configuration and comment out the Wi-Fi in the Octopi WPA supplicant text file. There is, I know there is a command. I have to Google it. I don't know off the top of my head, but there is a command to disable the onboard Wi-Fi completely. If you don't want it, the chip just listening. I mean, it really isn't doing anything unless you are telling it to connect to a network. And if you remove the configuration of an SSID and password from the WPA supplicant file, it will not try to connect to network. It's just going to sit there and idle. We have most of our Pis here. I think basically every single one is hardwired, and they just sit there doing nothing in terms of Wi-Fi. So you don't need to disable it, but you can. Let me see. Disable Raspberry Pi Wi-Fi. So you can just take the interface down if you do a sudo ifconfig wlan 0 down. That will bring the interface down, but that's not going to disable the chip itself. I don't know if there's a way to actually disable a chip so it's not even powered because it's all directly connected. But what I do is I just don't set in SSID and password in the actual what's the word I'm looking for? In the config file, and then it just doesn't do anything. If you guys were not seeing the sale price on the site, it's because things were cached. I just reset the cache. Nexon. Does a filament run out in your firmware, issue a G-code that you can add to the pausing commands in Octoprint? I got MQTT. We're going to want to set up a notification for pause. So that's a good one. When a filament sensor triggers with Marlin, it should issue an M600 into the command queue while it's printing. So you can have Octoprint. I know there's plugins. I don't know the name of one off the top of my head that can listen to the terminal. And if it sees a command come through, then trigger an event on said command. But M600 is what the filament sensor triggers. You can actually manually just send M600 at any time during a print, and it will initiate the filament change procedure as if the filament sensor was triggered. Some people do that a lot. They'll insert it into certain layer positions in their G-code so they can do a color swap. I know there's plugins too for like Cura and Octoprint where you can go through in a file and tell it, I want at layer 20 to change filament, so it'll insert an M600 to initiate the filament change procedure. Chris is asking, I can't get PETG to stick to my bed. I got a CR10 V3 with the easy ABL. I've used glue stick and hairspray, but the heat from the bed causes them both to dry up, and I still can't get the first few layers to stick. So I'm assuming you probably have the stock bed, which I believe is like one of these like ultra base style ones, these like glass ones. These were PETG, and these were, if you look, they're kind of, I don't know if you can see it. It's very subtle on this one. I was running the bed at 80C. You should be running your bed at 80C for PETG, but this started kind of like warping. Something like the Vision Miner Nanopolymer, which it's over there because I was using it on one of my printers. That works really well on basically any service. It's safe to use on this type of service where it's like this, carbonium or whatever they call it. It's the glass sheet with the texture on it. It works really well. But hairspray I use the Suave stuff. It's like the pink can. I can't remember when I used to use hairspray. I haven't used hairspray in years. But Aquanet is like people's choice, but I've been using the Vision Miner, and it's much nicer because you don't have to worry about spraying hairspray on your printer's bed, especially if it doesn't have a removable bed, because the hairspray can get all your bearings and stuff and start gumming things up. So anyways, yeah, so make sure you're running your bed hot enough. That bed should hit 80C. It'll probably take a little while to get there, just because the larger bed. But 80C is typically what I run for PETG. That's the glass transition temperature of PETG typically. So the temperatures that you print with on your printer beds are actually usually the glass transition temperature of most materials. Now, there are exceptions to those rules. Some nylons, you can get away with lower bed temperatures. You should refer to the filament manufacturer. They will know what they print with. But if you're printing with generic materials like PLA, PETG, ABS, I use 60C for PLA, 80C for PETG, and then ABS, I use 100C for the bed temp. Continental said he has Energy 5 Plus, an Easy Board, and Easy ABL for over a year. All of a sudden today, I went to print from the SD and it froze. Now when I power on the screen, it's blank. Do I need to reflash the firmware? One, I would check all your connections, because if something just is not showing the screen, there could be something wrong. Check and also make sure that you didn't accidentally, when you put the SD card in, I've seen a lot of people where they kind of shove them in. You're not really paying attention. You're just like pushing in, and they end up crushing the pins inside the slot because the card wasn't going in at the exact, like going in straight. It was slightly off center. What can happen is, because there are power pins in there, is they can cause a short. So take a look, I usually will take like, my phone flashlight or something and look in there to see. You should see a bunch of pins, little gold finger pins, and they should all be straight. If you see any that are like bent, that could be the issue. So But in terms of the screen being blank, check the SD card, try flashing the firmware again. But I would open it up and double check. You could have an issue that shorted the board out. Check your hot end. The most common thing we see with board failures is people's hot ends have issues and they send the higher voltage. In that case, it'd be the 24 volts into the I/O pin of the board and it cooks the processor. The other thing is if you have an Ender 5 Plus that doesn't have the Meanwell power supply, those stock power supplies are notorious for going out. If you bought an Ender 5 Plus recently and it does not have the voltage switch on the side, then that means you have a Meanwell. If it does have the voltage switch on the side and you haven't changed the power supply, then it has one of the generic ones that they originally were using and had a lot of issues with them going out, which is why Creality changed to the Meanwells. So, which I'm not going to complain about that. I love seeing them ship with Meanwells. Jim, upstate New York, says, is there a way to do the Marlin build in VS? I'm assuming it's VS Code. Wait, is there a way to do the Marlin build in I'm just going to read it, in VS, keeping in the file, I'm going to have a stroke reading this, Jim, versus keeping in the file I'm very confused. I don't know what you're asking. I think you're asking if there a way to have it auto upload to the board. I'm going to try to interpret this the best I can. But basically, if you have a 32-bit board, you're going to put a file on an SD card and put that file put that SD card with the firmware file into the printer and turn it on. If you have an 8-bit board, you're going to upload over a USB cable and you need to have a bootloader on the board. Yeah, hopefully that answered the question. I tried to make the best out of that. Sean, do you have any tips on how to make a top surface that is flat be as smooth as possible? Now, I don't use this feature, but I know people that do use it. I do, like Cura has an ironing feature where it basically lightly drags the nozzle back over the top layer to kind of smooth it out. I have not used that, but in general, to try to make things come out as clean as possible, you want to make sure you aren't over extruding or under extruding. If you're over extruding, you're going to have, bumps, and it's not going to be flat. It's going to be kind of like this. And under extruded, you're going to have gaps in the layer. So make sure you have your E-steps calibrated. And once the E-steps are calibrated, there is actually an E-step tool on our website where you can punch in your E-steps you have now, tell it to extrude 100, and it walks you through the whole process of changing your E-steps and dialing it in. At that point, once your E-steps are calibrated, you want to make sure that you have the correct flow rate in your slicer. So in S3D, they have a multiplier for your flow rate. For example, most of my printers here for PLA, I end up using a multiplier of 0.9 to 0.96 for the multiplier. For ABS, I found 1.0 to 1.05 works best. For PET-G, I usually am somewhere between 1 to 1.1 on the extrusion multiplier. So you can also get around, if you have a printer that has a firmware that doesn't allow you to change the E-steps, then the multiplier can be a workaround to a point to the E-steps if they're slightly off. But you really should be running the correct E-steps. Now, with our firmware, if you have a stock printer, we've set them to the ones that work with the stock extruder, so you're pretty close already, but it's not going to hurt anything to calibrate your E-steps. The only steps you should be calibrating like that, in that method where you're running, telling it to extrude so much, calculating it, changing it, is your extruder. Don't be calibrating E-steps on your X, Y, and Z, because those are a fixed value based on the step angle of your motor, the stepping mode of your stepper driver, and the type of belt you're using. So, and the size of the pulley. And on lead screws, it has to do with the pitch of the lead screw, the stepping mode of your stepper driver, and the step angle of your stepper motor. So, Derek Jensen, if I put an Easy ABL on my Ender 3 V2, do I need to replace the screen? I almost never use it. So right now, so the latest firmware that's on our site, we've updated the product page. So when the Ender 3 V2 first came out, the live Z adjust did not work correctly with the stock screen. Marlin released some updates, and now if you adjust the Z offset from the screen, baby stepping does work now on the Ender 3 V2 stock color screen. The only thing is you're not going to have a ton of options to change things on the printer. It's like 90% there. And I was talking to Scott, and they are working on trying to roll out more stuff for those screens. The only thing is, if you want to run a filament sensor as well, you're going to need to change the screen right now. Now, you could wait and see if there's an update for Marlin, because once Marlin updates, we then update within a couple weeks to add more features, and they are working on it. But the 12864 style screens, those just work right now with all of Marlin's settings. The color screens are a little different animal because they have their own standalone firmware that is not 100% driven by the processor on your control board. So, Chris Besta says, I have a CR10 V3 installed. I don't, wait. Oh, I already answered that. Armels, how much are you paying your question lackey? I'm paying him with love and appreciation. Sean Hawkins, where'd I go to open a ticket with tech support? Contact us.th3dstudio.com. I'm surprised you didn't know that. We're very easy to contact. We also have a link on our website that says contact us at the very top. Let's see. Jason G. I've got a CR10S Pro V2. I want to convert to an E3 Titan extruder. Everything I find is only for the CR10 and not the Pro V2. I'm confused where to start. Yeah, it's so the CR10 Pro V2 has a completely different carriage setup than the CR10. I do believe, now don't quote me on this, but I do believe the HeroMe Gen 5 system has support for that particular model with a Titan style extruder. That would be where I would start. Now, if you're doing a remote, if you're sticking with Bowden and you just want to have the Titan extruder mounted remotely, did we put that on our site? I know we designed one. I can't remember if we posted it yet. Oh, we might not have. I need to get that. I need to get photos taken of that. We have a bracket to put our Tough extruder, which is a Titan clone, on the CR10S Pro V2. So, I don't know if you're doing a direct drive or not. If you're doing a direct drive, then that complicates things a little more because then you have to replace the whole shroud and everything. In that case, I would look at the HeroMe Gen 5. If you're just doing a remote mounted one, that's a lot easier because you're not changing the hot end setup. The hot end setup on the CR10S Pro V2 is actually not a terrible setup. It's got a much beefier fan than most of the other ones. So, Burn Blood in Discord says, I'm trying to get the new Easy Neo working. He's getting 24 volt at the wire connector going into the Easy Neo. That's not good. You should not be getting 24 volt. You should be getting 5 volts. Do not plug that in because you could burn up the LEDs. Post pictures of how you have that connected because you shouldn't be getting 24 volts. I don't know what you're using. If you're using like a universal power adapter, if you're trying to power it off of the control board itself, where you pulled power, that kind of stuff. Questions like that, it's good to always include pictures of your guys' setup so I can look at them and be like, oh, this is connected wrong here. I've had hit and miss with setting higher voltage than normal into NeoPixels. Sometimes it doesn't do anything, but other times it does fry them. So you got to be very careful with that. Let's see here. Robert Worley says, I've got a CR10 V3 with EasyABL Pro. Sometimes it will auto home to the front left and not get a good bed level. You need to update the firmware to the latest version because there was a bug that was patched on AMD computers where the end stop interrupt feature was causing issues on certain computers. It seemed to be isolated to AMD processors compiling it. Why? I have no idea. But that was the common theme of things not working, was people compiling on an AMD system. But the latest version 2.32 Unified fixes that. So, and I've actually verified it. Luckily, I was able to finally get someone to let me connect to their computer with the printer attached, with a camera pointed at the printer so I could do some remote troubleshooting. And that has been patched. So update to 2.32 and you will be working correctly again. It was something with the end stop interrupts feature in Marlin. So, Let's see here. What would be a good tutorial for learning Fusion? I'm going to plug Doug's channel. Doug is Top at Waffle in here. I believe he has Fusion tutorials. But the best thing to do, honestly, is just download and start playing with it. That's all that I did. I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm actually able to design stuff. I'm trying to see his videos. I don't know if he's watching. Yeah, here we go. He's got Learning Fusion 360. I'll post a link to his video in the chat here. The giveaway form is not live. I have not had time to set anyone up. There's too much stuff going on here right now. But we will be pulling. I'll pull the giveaway winner on Friday. But there we go. Let's see. It's already over 6 o'clock. I know I ranted for a little bit, so we're going to answer a couple of different ones here. And let's go here. So, I think this is the same question. Easy Neo firmware. Yeah, I think it's the same guy. Yeah, post pictures of your setup. I think it's Burn BLOD, Burnblode, in the live stream channel, so I can see how you have everything connected. Let me check live chat. Dimitri is saying, how can I check serial data for the Easy Neo from the Easy board? I have an open ticket. I think I talked to you today to determine if there was a connection issue between the signal pin and the signal pin from the 6-pin header and the Easy Neo pin header. Unless your name is just similar, anyways, your Discord name is similar to what's I'm looking for. Yeah. Did you check it? I sent you a picture. You said you were going to check it, because if it's just the continuity not working, then we'll gladly send out a new one. I see Burn Blood is typing. Hopefully you're sending some pictures. Anyways, I will be in the... Hang on. I'm going to tag Dimitri. You're in... I don't think I can tag... I tagged you as a beta tester. So you should be able to see the beta testing channel in the VIP section of the Discord. So we can chat after the stream and figure out what's going on. Shinny, can we share any info on the Easy Board 2? It will have a genuine STM32 chip on it. No GD chips here. I'm just scrolling through live chat. But no, I'm not divulging any actual details. Where I should have the actual run, the first production run of the final, what should be the final retail boards. We're doing a small run of 5 to test here in the next week. So we're very close. I'm hoping to have them out by the end of the month, but we don't want to rush things out. I don't want to beat it. Let's see. Anyways, let's see. I'm looking here. Emerson's asking, is it worth updating the 1.2 to the 2.0? Me personally, I mean, there's going to be some new stuff on the 2.0, but I don't think it justifies upgrading to the 2.0. If you want my perfectly honest opinion, they're both going to be great boards. So, anyways, Burn Blood, you are in the call to TH3D, so I will chat with you about your Easy Neo. Send me pictures on there. Make sure you guys check out the sale. We will be having some nice printer bundles. We're starting out with basic bundles, and this one for today that's discounted is that maintenance bundle that I mentioned earlier. We're going to have printer-specific ones coming soon. So there will be a new one every single day. So there's stuff that's on sale throughout the whole sale duration, and then we're also doing special bundles that are on a deeper discount just for that day only. So hopefully we'll be able to keep up with the order load. If we are going, hey, we have too many orders, we're not going to be able to keep up, we'll make sure to let you guys know if we're off our normal schedule. So anyways, and I think I'm going to find somebody to rope in as my question lackey for the stream. So maybe I can bribe them with some some gift cards or something. So you guys know what time it is. And this time we have two. Can we sit? Sit. Shake. Touch. Good boy. Sit. Clara, sit. Clara, sit. Shake. Touch. Close enough. All right. I hope everybody has a good week. Like I said, make sure to check out the sale. Burn, Blood, and Dimitri, since you guys are on Discord, I'm going to rope you guys in, and we're going to see what's going on with your setups here. So I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, happy printing.